Okay, so even before starting this tutorial series, let's first copy the code from GitHub and let's set up our environment so that we can follow along this course. Okay, so there are two ways to do it. If you have ROS and Gazebo installed on your system, Gazebo Sim installed on your system, then you can use this method. And but if you do not have ROS and Gazebo Sim installed on your system, then you can use this Dockerized version. So I'm going to also use a Dockerized version because I still have Gazebo Classic in my system. So I do not want to mess this up. If you know that if you have Gazebo Sim and Gazebo Classic together, they can mess up your system. So it's better to use Docker. So even I'm going to use Docker setup fully on this, but I will explain you if you are doing it manually on the host, then how to do it. So the important thing is, let's open this repository. This is the main code where all of our Gazebo Sim plugin related codes are there, as well as all the plugin code are there, and all the ROS2 related things are there. Let me show you this. So the ROS2 workspace actually has the code. So if you are setting it up manually, so this is a ROS2 workspace, then on this workspace within SRC, you need to do colcon build for your all the setup. And this is standalone Gazebo Sim plugins. So these are standalone plugins. It doesn't need anything else. What you have to do is you have to go inside this and you have to make a build folder and build all of this thing manually. So steps for those are mentioned here. All those, everything other than the initial setup is same for even if you're using without Docker version or if you're using Docker version. But the main difference is that on Docker will be running inside a container, and without Docker you have to run it on the host. So most of the things will be same. So this ROS2 is there, and this is standalone plugins. So if you want to set it up, then you can read about all the details around here. And as I mentioned, you need to have ROS2 installed as well as all the dependency well installed. Otherwise, it may happen that Gazebo Sim may not launch or some things in Gazebo Sim may not work. So you have to be very careful while you are using this way. And then make sure you have everything installed and everything set up. Okay. Then what we need to do is, if we are doing a Dockerized version that I'm going to closely explain, then we'll do this. So also everything written over here would be same for Dockerized version. It's just that we'll be first setting up the Docker for our use case. Okay. So just make sure that you have Docker installed and you understand how Docker works and some of the basic things, how to start the Docker container, how to stop the container, those things. So what I've done is basically, this is the Docker container folder where I have sub module this another repository that has all of this code. Okay, so this has Docker file and Docker compose for Docker setups, and this has the code. So this gets just volume shared. I hope you understand what is volume sharing. Okay, so let's begin by cloning this repository. I'm cloning by SSH. If you haven't set up your SSH, you can use HTTP or other way you can zip it and unzip. All those ways are there. So we'll do git clone, and I have made my own workspace. You can do any place you want, but the important thing to remember is that once you have done this, you need to give cert module update so that this all the codes that's actually this codes, so that get copied onto your system, the studio code. So you'll see everything set up over here. So nothing is there on this. So we need to, so as I was saying, once we have done that, what we have to do is we have to go around this ROS2 workspace. Once we are here, we need to do the submodule steps so that this is get copied to our repository. So you can follow along this. You can use this documentation. This is documentation I've written for this entire tutorial series. You can look up to this documentation as well. All you can do this, then it is going to clone this up. When you come here, you will see on Visual Studio that this is the one repository, and this one, when we do submodule update, everything inside that has come up. Okay, so the main thing that we need to understand from here is how I've set up the Docker file and all other things. So if you see, I'm using ROS Jazzy. This is one of the latest version of ROS, like Humble is there, and this is one of the latest version of ROS2. So after Humble, this is one of the LTS version. I'm using this, and I just set up the basic things that needed to install it. And then I am using this ROS2 GZ so that it install everything that I need. I need transport and all those messages and Gazebo Sim setup and all those things. So it set it up, and then there are some optional steps that's there so that this autocomplete, when you press tab, it will be able to autocomplete. So this is what about the Docker file. And then this Docker compose is here. So you see this is the container name, this would be our container name, and this is the image that get created from this Docker file that's over here. And then it uses privilege to do so that we have every access that we need for it, okay, for GUI, real-time sensor, all those things. And then we had that the TTP API and all those, these are all there so that we can constantly run our container. We do not need to run any command on inside it, and when we do execute inside the container, it should be able to run this up. For that it's there. Then for networking we have this host, and then we have this for GUI and all those things. You need to have this display. This is very important, that you need to have a display. So for example, if you do this, oh sorry, my bad, echo display, echo display. When you do this, oh, alright, so this is my display ID that's on the host, so that needs to be copied inside the container so that we are able to set up the X host thing. And once this is there, then only you are able to have the access to use GUI. If that is not set up well, it's going to cause problems. So these are some environmental things that is being set up over here. And for that, I was saying, then this is volume shares. So these are outside volume of the host being shared with inside volume of this, okay. Then this is our repository thing, the another repository that I was talking about, that for host user they are using directly. So this we have volume share. So this location of ROS2 workspace, this folder, the entire code base of ROS2 workspace is being copied inside the container on this root host. Same goes with standalone plugins. These are also copied to root host. So these are some certain things that you need to know. Okay, now let's build our Docker file and make the container. So the command for it is docker compose up -d. Also before that, if I show you docker ps, our container is not being set up. We are going to set it up. So it is going to take some time, and it is going to build up the container entirely. And all of this is going to take a little bit time, and you'll have to set up patiently. It will pull up the things from the internet, and then it will be layer by layer. If you understand how Docker works, this is the same thing that's happening over here. And then this setup, once this is completed, you should be able to see this, the image is being set it up, and then container is ready and it's running. So it is going to take up some time. Okay, so after 20 minutes, my container is ready, it's created, and the image is also created. Important thing is that you need internet for this, because it pulls all of the things from the internet. Okay, so make sure you have internet connection, otherwise this is not going to build up. Okay, so if I now do docker images, you should see this image name. Okay, so if I do docker images, you'll see this image over here, and this image is ready, and this image is being created first before creating the container. And same if I now do docker ps, so you're now able to see this, our container, the container name that we are using. This is the container name. Let me show it up on full screen, that looks much better. So in this, you see this container is ready, this Gazebo Sim tutorial container, this container is ready. And how to go inside this container is docker execute -it, the container name and then bash so that we can access the bash script or shell script part of it. And now you're inside the container. If I do ll, you're on the root. If I do pwd, see, you are on the root. And this is a ROS2 workspace. This actually has all the codes that is outside. If I go inside ROS2 workspace, you will see src. If I go around src, you would see all of these things are there. That's there in the host. So the important thing is whether it's this folder or this folder, this all being shared inside the container. So every changes that we make on this is going to get copied inside. So that's what volume share does, and it will help our development post process easy because we do not need to no more care about the dependency and all those things, and we can easily build things inside the container. Okay, I hope you understood volume things a little bit. Now let's start Gazebo Sim. Oh, it's crashed. I intentionally did it to show you the error. If you do not do xhost plus, then this is going to happen. So it is saying it's not able to access the display. So the problem is if you do echo, your display, so you have the display ID that was there in the host, but the problem is that you do not have xhost access. What is that xhost access is when you do this xhost plus, is actually give X server is being shared between the host and the container so that your container can use the display for Gazebo Sim, RWiz, all those stuffs. Okay. So now if I do this Gazebo Sim, it is going to start and you'll be able to see this Gazebo Sim screen. Okay. This is the thing. And I have explained you all of this. And also, if someone who doesn't know how to make Docker, so first time that you're starting, your Gazebo container would be switched off like this. So if your Gazebo container is not running, it takes some time to stop the container. Now container is stopped. I will stop the container. If you see, I have stopped the container. If I show docker ps, you won't be able to see the container anymore running. That's because we have stopped the container. Okay. So now if we do docker start, so generally when your system is turned off, your docker container will also be stopped. Okay. So when you want to restart the container, you do this restart, and then you need to just do this so that your container gets started. When you do docker ps, you'll be able to see your container as well as the xhost thing that I told you. You need to remember that every time you have this container started, then you have to make sure that you have given xhost permission so that your docker container can use your display. And then if I go inside the container, you'll be able to go it because the container is running. We checked with docker ps, right? So you have to remember those stuffs. Yeah. And that's it for this video. I hope you're able to set it up for your container. If you're not, just put on the places where you're facing problems. I will try to help you out.